If you're serious about history, survival, or just want to understand how soldiers endured the harshest conditions during World War I, then stick around and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for The Prepper Historian. Today, we're diving into a remarkable, often overlooked innovation that allowed soldiers to weather storms without the modern luxury of heavy tents. This isn't about fancy canvas shelters or high-tech gear. It's about ingenuity, ropes, and raw survival know-how. By the end of this video, you'll know not only how it worked, but also how you can apply this knowledge to your own outdoor adventures or historical reenactments. The Western Front was notorious for its mud, relentless rain, and freezing winds. Traditional military tents, while useful in theory, were often more trouble than they were worth. Soldiers would spend hours pitching them, only to see them collapse under heavy rain or tear in strong gusts. These tents became useless in the worst conditions, leaving men exposed to cold, sickness, and disease. Commanders and engineers realized that a different approach was necessary, something that didn't rely solely on fabric stretched across poles, something that could adapt to the landscape and survive storms. Enter the rope system. This was not a single invention, but a collection of techniques combining ropes, stakes, and clever knotting methods to create shelter that could withstand elements far better than a conventional tent. Soldiers would take basic materials, ropes, wooden stakes, and sometimes canvas remnants, and construct highly flexible, tension-based shelters. By understanding tension and load distribution, these rope systems allowed the soldiers to create structures that flexed with wind rather than resisting it blindly. In practical terms, this meant that a shelter would absorb the force of a gale instead of ripping apart. Ropes were threaded through loops in canvas or tied directly between stakes, trees, or even trench walls. The tension was adjusted so the shelter held its shape, but remained flexible. The brilliance lay in its simplicity, fewer heavy materials, faster setup, and greater durability. For modern preppers, understanding this principle can inform the construction of lightweight, storm-resistant shelters for camping or survival scenarios. The genius of these rope systems wasn't just about surviving storms. It was about efficiency and adaptability. Unlike rigid tents, which required perfectly level ground and careful anchoring, rope-based shelters could adapt to uneven terrain, mud, or forested areas. Soldiers often used nearby natural features like trees or trench edges to anchor their lines. The tension could be modified throughout the day to respond to shifting weather conditions. In essence, this system taught soldiers an invaluable lesson. Survival favors flexibility over brute force. Today, this translates directly into modern survival skills. If you're out in the wilderness, instead of lugging a heavy tent, you could use ropes, tarps and stakes to create a shelter that not only keeps you dry, but also resists collapsing in high winds. By observing how World War I soldiers distributed tension across multiple anchor points, a prepper can build a shelter that mimics this historical resilience, using far fewer resources. World War I soldiers didn't just throw ropes up randomly, they applied careful planning. One common method involved creating a triangular tension system. Stakes were driven at multiple angles, ropes were run diagonally to distribute load, and cross-bracing was used to stabilize the structure. Knots were critical. Soldiers relied on the bowline, clove hitch, and taut line hitch to maintain tension even under strain. For a modern enthusiast, recreating this system requires understanding basic physics of tension and load. Begin by selecting 3 or 4 strong anchor points. Run your main rope between these points, ensuring it is taut but not overly tight. Use diagonal ropes to counteract sideways wind pressure. Adjust tension incrementally, testing each line for resilience. The goal is a shelter that bends without breaking, a living example of history's practical ingenuity. There's a reason this rope system survived for decades in military manuals while, tents were constantly failing. It really emphasizes preparation, adaptability and resourcefulness. Whether you're building an emergency shelter in the wilderness or, say, a historically accurate World War I camp for reenactment, these principles are honestly timeless. Start by experimenting with tension-based setups in safe conditions. Observe how load distribution affects stability, and then practice adjusting knots and anchor points until you achieve a shelter that can endure wind, rain, and snow. This knowledge isn't just theoretical, not at all. During extreme weather, a tension-based rope shelter could be set up in a fraction of the time of a conventional tent. You could survive a sudden storm with minimal materials, really. And beyond survival, it offers a historical lens, a direct connection to how soldiers endured one of the deadliest conflicts in history, using ingenuity rather than technology. Understanding these rope systems gives you more than just a way to stay dry. It connects you to the mindset of World War I soldiers, to the practical problem-solving that kept them alive in mud-filled trenches. It's proof that innovation often comes from necessity, and, honestly, that sometimes the simplest solution outperforms the most sophisticated. For preppers and history buffs alike, adopting these techniques encourages both practical skill building and deeper historical appreciation. So, if you want more in-depth insights like this, historical survival strategies, and practical ways to apply lessons from the past, make sure to subscribe to The Prepper Historian. Share this video with fellow enthusiasts who want to understand how World War I soldiers survived storms without modern tents. Trust me, once you experiment with these rope systems, your approach to camping, survival, and historical reenactments will never be the same.